Hello everybody and welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. And as you guys know, hopefully I have been doing a lot of live streams lately and there's going to be a lot more coming, so make sure you guys watch for those posts. Make sure you guys are hitting that bell and get notifications for content releases. But one of the questions that continuously pops up, and it came up twice on my Discord over the weekend, was, is Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 worth it, in my opinion? And today, we're going to talk about that. We're going to go over the good, the bad, the ugly, the truth. Stick around. If you are interested in any of my tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides as well as any future guides that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below. All right, pilots, so let's get talking. So what are we going to cover in today's video? As I said, I'm continuously asked what I feel about 2024 and if it's worth it, especially after a few months now. And so we're going to talk about the pros and cons of 2024, why I have gone back to 2020 and I'm primarily sticking with it for a while, where I feel the letdowns really were now that everything has had a chance to settle down, and where I see 2024 being in the end. Okay, and actually we're sort of going to jump around a little bit. Let's start with where I want to preface this video right out of the gate, that in the end, I do think that 2024 is going to be the better sim, and I think it's going to be a better sim by far. Okay, I think once it has time to mature and develop, it's going to decimate. There's still going to be some negativity and some cons to 2024 that I want you to be aware of, but let's go ahead and get started into this. So right out of the gate, my number one issue, obviously, with 2024 is the same as everybody else's, and it was sort of a slap in the face to me and other content creators as we were reading the forums. We were repeating what Microsoft devs had, or the Asobo devs had released, stating that, for example, third-party add-ons, the biggest thing they kept reinforcing was that 95 to 98%, whatever, most of your third-party add-ons that work in 2020 should work in 2024, and that's just not the case. That didn't happen. There are plenty of aircraft that I use. A real quick example, for example, for me anyway, in 2024, the Black Square TBM 850, one of my favorite aircraft, I have some major issues with it. It flies weird. It has a lot of graphical issues. The tablet sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Just toss out a few things, right? And that's just one of many issues across multiple aircraft that I have tried to import. The fact that PMDG, their airliners, still aren't officially supported and that there are absolutely bugs. I tried flying the PMDG 737 and I had a horrible time with it with the 800. So things like that, that was definitely not the case. It was not. So for third-party add-ons, when they were saying that most of them should work, that's not what we're seeing at all. And you guys are probably experiencing the same thing. So that's the first hitter. Second hitter, and this is, I think, one of the biggest things that they missed. Okay. And as I say this, I want you guys to know I don't really use it, even in 2020. But as a community speaker, I need to be upfront here, and that's the marketplace. The sim should have been released with the marketplace ready to go. And the fact that it wasn't, I think it was a major. They shouldn't have released it without the marketplace. What they, again, going back to the initial statements of most of your third-party add-ons should work, and then for those who have purchased all of them and managed them through the marketplace, to say, okay, well, they should work, but we're not giving you the marketplace. And then here we are now in January of 2025 and still no marketplace. I mean, we're 2 months out now, right? It was November, right? That's just no bueno, in my opinion. Again, another thing that just really hinders it. My pros to 2024 is it is an eye pleaser. When it comes to graphical and scenery fidelity, it is absolutely superior to 2020. But with that being said, as I've been doing more and more of these live streams, you know, one of the things that would keep coming up is 2020 is still a gorgeous simulator. Yes, it has its issues. Like if I were to really compare apples and oranges here for a second. For like the scenery standpoint, the biggest hitter for me, anyway, in 2020 is the building melting, the texture melting, and the trees. The trees in 2020 are just garbage. They suck. They're in places they shouldn't be. You guys know where they're at. So, with that in mind, though, 2024 from the scenery, whether it be one of those really high fidelity areas like Vancouver, or just a standard scenery like my hometown Tucson, there's a major improvement to the scenery. There's a major improvement to the graphics. Speaking to performance, I get significantly smoother. I don't know that I would say better, but smoother FPS in 2024 than I do in 2020. It requires far less overhead from me as someone who's monitoring your settings, things like that. It is far easier for me to navigate through 2024's performance settings than it is to maintain those same settings in 2020. Now, a lot of that is probably because a lot of the load is on the servers. That is one of the advantages of, and I'm putting them in quotes on purpose, because I don't know if it's an advantage or not, really. Like, it really depends on what your situation is, why I'm quoting that. But one of the advantages of being on a cloud platform versus on a local platform like 2020 is a lot of that overhead and a lot of that workload is translated through the network versus on your graphics card. So that's something to be thinking about there too. Or on your CPU, not your graphics card. The other big one for me though, is 2020 is just, it's far more stable, right? But that comes back to time. Okay. This is where the debate is, maybe not the debate, but the realization that we need to remember, for those of you who were around for it, what 2020 was like, not just on launch, but for the first year it was out. That first year, I would say the first 12 months of 2020 was a nightmare. As a content creator and other content creators watching this, you guys can probably relate. Every time you loaded the sim and you're like, oh, I'm going to make a video today. This is going to be cool. I think people are going to like this. It was, am I going to be able to complete the flight without it crashing to the desktop? Right? Every setting that you changed in 2020, every new add-on, every new piece of software or scenery that you put into 2020, you ask yourself, am I going to regret doing this? Right? Is this going to turn into a fight? The number of times that I've made, best way to reinstall Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 videos. I think I have three or four of them out there of reinstall 2020. Here's how to reinstall 2020. Here's the best way to reinstall. And it was because it was a nightmare. So it's really important to remember where this all began. And remember that 2020 was in the same boat. 2020 was a nightmare on launch. Now, with that being said, it comes back to that, well, let's learn our lesson from the first one. And the best way that I can describe it is Microsoft 2024 should have been Microsoft Flight Simulator 2025. It should not have been released last year. It just shouldn't have been. It wasn't ready. And think about the first word in the name, and I'm willing to bet that's who is responsible for the release being released so early. Watching the live streams, and this is pure speculation, okay? But watching their live streams and watching their videos they've put out, the Asobo team, I get the impression that maybe they were aware that the sim was not ready to be released. And it's just my thought. It's a gut feeling. I feel like they knew, right? And so, but I also understand how corporate works. The corporate entity works. If Microsoft tells Asobo release it, they're gonna release it. Like we know who the backer is here, right? When your financial supporter says release it, you release it. So I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. So I guess in short, the answer is I have gone back to 2020 because it is more stable. I have more control over what is installed in the sim. I don't have to worry about internet connection as much. And the marketplace is there. My third-party add-ons are supported. And it is just a less cumbersome experience right now. But to expand once again, I believe in the future, and my guess would be a year at minimum. Now, in less than a year, I would guess in the next couple months, there's going to be massive updates to 2024. I think there's going to be massive improvements. But I'm going to say, just like with 2020, I'm willing to bet it's going to be at least a year. But within a year, I think 2024 is going to mature, and it's going to mature very quickly. The only thing that I am concerned about them doing is I hope that they don't ever stop support for 2020 because they have migrated to a full cloud solution. For those who don't have high-speed internet, there are still plenty of areas and rural areas that don't have access to high-speed internet. I hope that 2020 remains a supported and updated platform that those who don't want to use a cloud solution or maybe on a metered internet can still take full advantage of the simulator. So, because it's, you know, in my live streams, and by the way, make sure you guys catch those live streams. They'll be popping up left and right. We'll be going live later tonight. So make sure you guys watch for that. But I really hope that they continue it, because as I was pointing in the live streams, 2020 is still a beautiful sim. It's a beautiful simulator. It was still a milestone in itself. And for those of you who are saying that 2020 just should have been updated, that was the whole reason 2024 was created, was that 2020 had basically reached its architectural max. It was built on old technology, guys. And that's why I guess I don't understand why Asobo stated that most of your third-party add-ons should be supported out of the gate, is because they know that 2024 is built on a different architecture. It's built with the same premise, but it's on a different architecture. Okay, 2020 was built on basically old FSX technology. You know, it's not the game-breaking architecture that we think it is, or a lot of people thought it was. It's still got very old architecture in it, and 2024 has some of that, but not near as much. The other thing that I'll say as just a snobby point for 2024, I hate the interface. I hate this interface. I can't stand this interface. I don't know why. It's probably just preference at this point. I'm probably just being, like I said, a snob. But there is something about, and I hated the 2020 interface. So maybe there just is an interface that I like, right? Maybe there's just no pleasing me at this point. But I hate the interface. So if I get my 2 cents, I hope that that's something that they address. You know, redo it. I don't know. They're not going to, but you know, I'll throw it out there just in case. So anyways, guys, as always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you found it useful. My short answer here to this is 2020 is where I'm staying for a while. I will be bouncing back and forth, occasionally visiting 2024 for certain videos where I feel comfortable with it, but I feel representing it in its current state actually tends to be more frustrating, and it's very hard to be honest and say that, yes, it's this amazing simulator, when I think it has the potential. I think it will become an amazing simulator. I do not think it is where it needs to be right now. But like, for example, look at the scenery. It looks absolutely stunning. This is gorgeous. So there are pros to it. There are cons to it. My genuine advice at this stage is wait. Give it at the very least, I would say another 3 months before you jump into 2024. Give it time to develop a bit more. We have Sim Update 1 beta that's been attached to the servers, but even that's still a beta. Give it time. Let's see what happens. And of course, with every update, guys, I will be reporting back to you guys on where we're at. And you guys can make your choices from there. If something dramatically changes, I'll be sure to let you guys know. Stay safe and healthy. I'll see you in the next one.